there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Increasing the block size to 32 megabytes right now. What would be the top 5 arguments that would get hurled against me?
Oh, that's a good one.
There are a few that the big blockers got right.
Ching, like all these coins splash into the wallets of all the winners. I love that.
There's a new threat out there. It's crypto.
We're back, baby. 2024, the greatest year there's ever been in the history of humanity, and you're here for it. Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency, new year, new intro, new destroying the financial system. This is episode number 103 and Jameson L's featuring CheapLightning and EmergentReasons. This is today's Friday, the 5th of January, 2024. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is doing the producing, same as always. And our planned guest was a laser eye, Walter Victor, but he rugged us. Apparently his wife had to be in hospital at short notice. So I actually had done a big planned episode about no decentralization, well-researched, everything, but he couldn't make it. So we'll see about maybe rescheduling that. We're now 0 for 2 on laser eye guests showing up on time, but it is what it is. So we'll make it happen anyway, and we've got some of the regular crew back in to update us. So BCH turns 15. January the 3rd was the Bitcoin Cash birthday of a decade and a half in the revolution. So before we get on to all what's going on now, I just thought it might be a good chance to reflect for each of you on how you found that last decade and a half, and also a chance to just look back on 2023 as we say goodbye to our last year in BCH. Emergent, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So it's a ridiculous amount of time. It seems like a long time, but really in the grand scheme of things, it's still very new. But I'd say the TLDR reaction I have, thinking about 15 years is we lost so much time. There's been so much strife and problems and things that fell apart and disruption with BTC and whatnot. But then, talking with you recently, I think I did start to realize there's some things you just have to learn by fire. And I think we've learned a lot in those 15 years. We're in a place that the early Bitcoiners couldn't have been. They could not possibly have understood and figured out the things that we did because they didn't know what was important and what wasn't important. And so we've come a long way, and we've learned a lot, and we're much stronger than we used to be. And I think we're still going to make it.
CheapLightning, thoughts? A decade and a half?
Man, if you had asked me in 2011 where I thought I would be in 2023, it wouldn't. Sorry, 2024, right? I wouldn't have told you I was on a rocket headed towards Saturn. I would have told you I was, I don't know, just a bum on the street or something. I don't know. It's been crazy, man. It's lost time, but at the same time, everybody who got into Bitcoin, knew that there was going to be challenges ahead, right? There was going to be opposition, and people can disagree about what that opposition has been, but it's very clear that we've been fighting for survival, and I think we're in the best position we've been yet. So, really hopeful for this year.
Yeah, it's very strange to think back on those early days, and because in some ways we've made it and in some ways we haven't, right? And I think that would be hard to appreciate for people who weren't necessarily around then, like in 2013 or 14 or 15, BTC, Bitcoin was exploding so fast that people were like, we're going to be fucking taking over. Like by 2020 we'll be the world reserve currency kind of vibe. Like it was just absolutely kicking off. and all this stuff that some of it we do have now, like the current narrative at the moment is, the Bitcoin ETF maybe is going to be getting approved. And everybody was like, wow, that'll be a big moment. We have Bitcoin ETF, when we have countries talking about it, when we have politicians running scared, like all those things have happened, but they haven't happened in the way that we thought.
In the way that we
thought it would be, with like, hundreds of millions of people just onboarding into Bitcoin as it just spreads around the world, and it just wiping aside all the existing power structures in this kind of dying last gasp. Instead, it's worked out the other way, where it's like they've got all their hooks and stuff onto it on the controlled brand captured part of it, which the unaware people in the public still kind of mostly think is Bitcoin. But on the other hand, we've got BCH, and we came through an absolute trial by fire, and that's made it, at least to the point that I can see over the next 10 years or the next 15 years that it has a good shot at being capture resistant. And on top of that, you also have the whole rest of the DeFi ecosystem, which has its pros and its cons, but there's something to be said for the free market being at play there, right? And a lot of stuff is bubbling away in there that is truly a bit outside the realm of anyone's control. So in that sense, things have worked out. But on the other hand, a $50,000 BTC, a kind of fragmented ecosystem overall, and virtually none of global adoption in terms of real retail P2P, not kind of where we thought we'd be, I'd say.
Yeah. Like you said, not like we imagined it was going to be. But we're still going to get there.
Yeah, we're still going to make it happen. Okay, well, so I just wanted to get a bit of a reflection on that 15 years, but also just on 2023. I mean, obviously it's a bit late now, but I always really enjoyed on the Christmas episode. Obviously, we had Ryan and Callisti give a bit of their thoughts of how things have changed even over 2023, which was a huge year for Bitcoin Cash specifically. But I mean, of course, every year in crypto is pretty big, but 2023 still might have been one of the biggest years for crypto in terms of how much things change. So wanted to give you each a chance to just, if you can, cast your mind back to where were we at the end of 2022 and where are we at now?
That's like 1,000 years ago. I don't know how to do that. I'll just say, since I started blabbering first, so I keep a list, right? When I do my work, I do like on a weekly basis, I keep a record of all the stuff that I work on, just like in a text file or something. And every once in a while, I kind of scroll through that. And it's pretty incredible, the amount of just work and proof of work and effort and building that has happened this year, last year in 2023. Just insane. Like if I try to remember where I started and then I look at the actual list and I'm like, oh my God, we started from there and now we're where we are now. Things have come so far and so much has happened on the building side, like building products, BCH Bull, all the stuff that we're working on, the infrastructure. It's kind of nuts how much has happened. So I'm very proud of all the stuff that the General Protocols team has done, everyone on General Protocols, and also all of BCH ecosystem, CheapLightning, Jeremy, all the stuff that you and Jet have done. Just so many people have built so much. It's crazy. So if anybody ever does that or hasn't done it, I really recommend that. Just keep a record of what you've done or like what was going on, and then just go back and have a scroll through it and look at it, and you'll be impressed with something like the BCH ecosystem.
CheapLightning, last year, 2023.
Well, at the beginning of 2023, I think I was still sort of feeling the fire of the SBCH fallout and the CoinFlex trauma and all that sort of thing. And of course, there were a lot of people who were saying just absolute doomer stuff like, well, this is the end of BCH. It can't survive. This was the final chance BCH had. And if smart BCH doesn't succeed, then BCH is toast and all that sort of thing. And it, I never believed that for a second, but I also really struggled to understand why people believe that as well. But at the same time, like, I think if you've been burned 3 times by forks and whatever, then yeah, okay. People reach their limit and they bail out when they bail out, and okay, that's fine. But at the same time, like, I was just looking at the horizon and things that I knew were coming down the pipe, right? Cash tokens, etc. And I was just like, guys, like, I think you're bailing out at the wrong moment here. This is we're just kicking off. It's just firing up, like, we're, and Uname has said over and over again, it's like, 2 years without a catastrophe. I think we did it, right. We're extremely well aligned. Everyone seems to be, for the most part, on the same page. And I guess, if you're a bit on the outside of conversations, or you don't pay too close attention, it could be easy to miss it. But yeah, I've just been hyped, and at the same time been super busy doing the stuff that I've been doing, which has meant that I haven't been able to work on other things that I was hoping to work on. But that's fine. You reevaluate your priorities all the time. And yeah, I think this is, we're ready to go. This is it. Right?
This is it. I love that, because they say it's always darkest before the dawn, right? That's something I always think of. And when you're in those moments, like with SBCH and stuff, for some people that just hitting rock bottom, after BTC split, and then BSV split, and then XCC split, and then Smart BCH dies, and it's just easy to be like, oh no, it's all over. I never really saw it that way, because I always knew, I'm sure if you went back and checked the tapes of some of those episodes, it was like, well, Smart BCH is doing well, but I was like, but we've already got another bullet in the chamber, with the cash tokens stuff coming. And that's always just the best sign, is like, not when you're struggling with what you're at now, but when you're like a step ahead, and even a step ahead of that. And I can really see those wheels starting to turn in the BCH ecosystem, that we're starting to get the payoff. We'll talk about a bit about that today, obviously, of all those foundations that have been laid. When you look at like the Libord stuff that Jason Dreisner was doing 4 years ago, right? And that's still, it's just barely scratching the surface of the potential there, right? But it's starting to pay off. The better wallets, like even just 2 years ago, it was like the Bitcoin.com wallet, which was heading in the wrong direction, and that was kind of mostly it. Now we've got Selene, which is massively improving. We've got, obviously Paytaka and Cashanize, fantastic as well too. And I'm forgetting Zapit. Yeah, like we've got just like things have changed so much, I feel like, and probably mostly for the better. So I'm
Jeremy, I wanted to add on to that, the 15 years ago versus last year thing. 15 years ago, I really wouldn't have had much of a conviction about whether, individuals make a difference or not. But the last 15 years have really, really convinced me, and especially the Bitcoin Cash comeback arc has convinced me that people specifically doing specific things and particular things. There is an element of the right person at the right time, the time being important, not also the environment. But yeah, it's individuals have made such a huge difference, and just a huge shout out to all of BCH ecosystem and all the individuals and groups and organizations doing their thing to make stuff happen. Is just, it's incredible seeing all of that start to build up.
Yeah, and it's something I think people need to keep in mind. It's just a classic of understanding how exponentials work, right? Which is that I would much rather have a team of 100 or 200, whatever the top 200 most heavily contributing people in the BCH ecosystem is, an insanely talented and hardworking set of people. And it doesn't even matter if the BCH ecosystem is 1/10 or 100th the size of BTC or ETH or even fiat. Like, that amount of people is more than enough to win, just based on the exponential advantage you can have from having, the highest quality tooling, the, hardworking people. Like, he's controversial, but Rolando Bryson, I really liked when he said in St. Kitts, he said, he was looking at the sort of GitHub pages and stuff, and he said, look, the BCH ecosystem, this could be a Fortune 500 company. Like you could,
Yeah.
if you had all these people
Yeah, yeah.
jammed into one traditional hierarchical structure, that could be a Fortune 500 company. That's really how I feel about it. And those companies, you don't need to have 30,000 employees or whatever. You can do it with a couple, like whatever it was. Instagram hit 1 billion with 10 people or whatever it was. You just got to have the right people and the right mission, the right way of working, and
we're actually figuring it out. Actually decentralized, right? Like a lot of people do that lip service and have no idea what they're talking about. We're actually figuring out what it means to be a decentralized organization, and then a brain that works without having a king at the top. It's impressive, and nobody could have predicted exactly how it works. We still don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing that people undervalue is the fact that the BCH community, it sounds trite, but once you think about it, it's actually very powerful. The BCH community has BCH as a tool, right? Like we forget that. You think about the BTC community or the ETH community or any of these other guys, 95% of what they're doing is still in fiat. They're still paying each other. Yeah. There was a clip the other day of Dylan Leclerc, right? Who's this huge shiller of BTC, 600,000 followers. And he said, I've done the whole hodl thing. I'm out there working every day in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and I've been months where I've never made a Bitcoin transaction. And I was just thinking to myself, this is crazy. But that's it. They're still living on those fiat rails, and money every day in the BCH ecosystem is just redistributing itself in the optimal manner, right? And we've only just seen scratch the very surface of that. But even that efficiency advantage, the invisible hand of the market, silently on our side there is huge, absolutely huge.
And I love using it every day. And then every time I go back to fiat system and I run into some stupid thing, it's just like, oh my God, I'm so glad I have this thing that actually works. I know it's absolutely going to work absolutely every time that I use it. It's so nice to have that to fall back on, to do.
And the way everyone's aligned, it's been amazing. Okay, so that's kind of the retrospective. So for each of you, then I just wanted to get some insight onto what you've been working on specifically recently, and maybe what's going to be on the roadmap for 2024. So CheapLightning, starting with you. I know you've been doing a lot in the Bitcoin Cash Foundation and putting out the weekly news updates. What's going on there?
So I feel like I'm repeating myself just because I did this like 2 days ago on the general protocol stream. But so the BCHF is still plunking ahead. Lots of little pieces to pick up that somebody needs to do, which nobody has made it their job to do. And that's the whole point of the BCHF, is just picking up all these little pieces that someone needs to do, but there's no big boss upstairs to direct it. So that's where I come in. Weekly news. This last week, I've been trying to get general BCH logos up on all the stock image websites, so that when people search for BCH, they have actual good logos, not the orange one with wings, etc. And then also, I was kind of sleeping on it, and I've decided that AI is actually really important. And so this last week, I've been learning how to train AI so that, again, BCH logos will be available. Because if you use Stable Diffusion to create AI images and you type in Bitcoin Cash or BCH, it'll give you a general Bitcoin gold coin almost always. And you really have to fiddle around with it. And so I've just been working on training so that when you enter in BCH or something similar, it'll actually give you a BCH logo for your image generation. And that's, AI is really where the future is, in my opinion, as far as like content creation. The days of hiring a graphic designer for your one-off quick thing, I think are almost done. And so, making that available for everyone is going to be something that I think is important, along with a million other things, but I won't take up too much time with it.
No, it's great. It's great to hear. And I was listening to Jeff Bezos the other day on Lex Friedman, and he was talking about how at Amazon, they have dedicated teams of people whose job it is exactly what you're saying, to fix all the small things, because those things in aggregate are huge, but they also just never get on the priority list of somebody who's on some big, project, because they have the big, it's like a, big chunky thing, and then a chunky thing and a chunky thing, and all that small stuff just never finds its way into the system. So it's, tremendously important work. And I'm really glad we have that growing in the ecosystem.
Really inspired by John. Like, he often called himself the janitor, right? BCHN janitor. And that really inspired me. And so I am the BCHF sanitary engineer. I
Upgrade.
Yeah. Chief sanitary engineer. So, yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Emergent, what have you been up to specifically in the BCH ecosystem recently?
Trying to drag as much BCH off of exchanges and into the network and into use as possible. So just working hard on BCH Bull, any hedge, all of that. So trying to evolve that, step by step with limited resources, and try to get each next step that will draw in more people to actually use BCH every day, right? And I've been enjoying that. So I have an internal graph that I can't show you, but I love looking at it, that shows right, because the contracts are private until they settle on chain, right? So nobody knows what trades you're making until they settle on chain. But I have a graph of just the total value lock, like how much BCH people have in contracts, and and it has a curve. You know what I mean? It has a certain shape that I've seen before, and but that actually turns out to be a really hard problem, because you need enough BCH on the other side to support that, right? So getting enough people to come in and do liquidity so that that curve can keep growing and not run into a wall or ceiling at some point is a big deal. Yeah, but I've been very happy working on that, just getting people using BCH to save or speculate or whatever it is they do with it.
So the public stats that you're talking about on DeFi Llama right now, the latest info it has is from November the 4th. So I guess it lags 2 months, and there was 5.5K, 5.57K BCH, like 5,580.
There's 24,000 BCH in those contracts right now.
Okay. All right. So there we go. There's going to be a big, nice 5X coming up as those stats come together. Damn, that's great to hear. And it's obviously been improving a ton as well, just because I think we're now at the point where a lot of things in the ecosystem are getting direct user feedback. It's not just playing around. It's not just like beta version or anything like that, or alpha. It's like it's out there. And then as soon as you put something out there, people say, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And you're like, this is really valuable stuff that we never would have thought of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing
it's also
Telegram, right?
One of our purposes as a company, like our explicit purposes in our charter, where where we came up with, like, these are the things we want to accomplish as a company, as a team. One of them was, just showing that it's possible, right? Because humans are like that. We're fucking apes, and we ape in a good way, right? Like, you see somebody else and you're like, wait, they're using BCH, they're doing their business on chain with crypto, and they're making a business work, and they're making some money. I could do that. You know what I mean? And then they look at, like, what did they do? Oh, they got a team. They got a small team. They organize. They got their shit together. They do a little bit of marketing. They do a little bit of everything. I can do that. You know what I mean? And I'm really looking forward to us getting swamped by, people doing things even better than we do. I'm really looking forward to that. And I think I can kind of feel it, that people are getting the idea that you can do more than just one man show. Like, you can do a lot as a person, and you can do even more as a team.
Yeah, and I think we're doing well as well across the ecosystem in terms of, like I said on the previous episode, the trust takes a while to build up, because individuals take time to get savvy with each other, and the same with sort of organizations in the broader sense. And then once those links have been built up, it's just like easy. It's like, these are the guys doing that. Let me just ask them. Bam, I've got an answer. We're all we're all in the same team, right? And that really becomes apparent when you're working in the ecosystem, and once you've got it built up enough, credibility, that other people will give you that sort of benefit of the doubt. then from there you're just rolling. It's so much easier because you've already got all these people on your team and access to them anytime if you need it.
Decentralized Fortune 500. That is really a good visualization of it.
And for people who maybe aren't aware, 24,000 BCH is like $6 million, right? So that's not a small amount of money, right?
No, it's not.
There,
CheapLightning is always like, you need to say the dollar amount number.
Right.
I forget.
Unit of account, BCH unit of account right here.
Total unit of account. Yeah,
of course. But for people who don't keep track of the dollar value, or even people who can't do the math in their head, right? It's just like, you got to say the number. That's a lot of money, right?
But the thing is,
what that means is like ongoing, right? This is circulating, like this is 6 million ongoing circulating amount of BCH. That's not like just some contracts. This is like continuously people are making and renewing and doing these at a volume of 6 million.
Yeah, exactly. And it's wired.
In total, it's been like 250,000 BCH, I think, has gone through any head contracts. Yeah.
Damn. That's not bad. Out of 21 million, what's that? 250? Yeah, like damn. But yeah, when it comes down
they're using it.
It's built to snowball on itself too, right? Because if the price rockets up, that just means that the amount of value locked in those contracts is also going up. And then a few people will get liquidated along the way. A few hedges will get sort of stopped. Well, I guess you can't get liquidated on a hedge. But anyway, once their thing ends, the long is now suddenly mega fucking rich. And then they go back in, right? So it's a flywheel built on itself.
Well, the other flywheel is one of the intents of it. And another thing on the list was to draw value from outside into BCH, right? And the way that happens is there's obviously a lot of people who think BCH is going to go up using BCH Bull. And then I had my TradFi friend using it, and he's like, why you got to intimidate me here? He's like in here making hedges with the BCH Bull staring at him.
Yeah.
He's like making hedge positions. But that's the whole point, that's what do you call it? An economic forcing function, right? You do something where if people don't follow the incentive, they're losing. And so with enough longs, being bullish on BCH, that means the premiums for hedging, for shorting BCH go through the roof. And so then people are like, well, okay, they come in, they're going to come in because that's just sitting there. It's money on the table from their perspective, right? So they come in.
It's been up to like
use it.
10% for even the 30-day hedges and stuff I've seen.
Oh man, if you convert them to APYs, like we don't do that because I think it gives the wrong impression. But if you convert them to APYs, like sometimes it's been like 100, 200, 300, 400% on some of these. And it's not because there's some kind of underhanded, shell game going on in the background, like there usually is when there's those. It's literally just because there's an imbalance between them, because all of these contracts are fully collateralized. There's no loaning going on. There's no promises. There's no trust me bro stuff going on. So yeah, it's just imbalance that creates those crazy premiums.
Well, it makes sense. The BCH community is obviously bullish on BCH.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's like and that's the thing, right? When we were talking the other day, it's the perfect, put up or shut up. If somebody's like, oh, ha, ha, you're like, oh, well, come and short it. It's right there. It's waiting,
bro.
Yeah.
Okay, then speaking of the shorting, we got the price. I've got Mt. Gox / ETF distribution pump / dump ? So the current USD price, $235.31 per BCH, which is flat from last episode. One BTC buys 184.8 BCH, which is also flat, and one ETH buys 9.4 BCH, which is also flat. We had a big run up of 15 or 20% against the market, and then we've dropped off again. But the whole market's just in a bit of a weird scenario because everybody was kind of like, Mt. Gox coins are getting paid out. Jokes, they're kind of not. It's an ETF. Jokes, it kind of isn't.
On PayPal.
Yeah. Nobody really, they paid out the Mt. Gox coins twice to some people on PayPal, and then were asking them back. And people were saying, what? You're like 10 years overdue on on sending me back my money. Maybe I'll send you back yours in 10 years, bro.
Yeah.
See how that works out for you. Chibi, you're actually a creditor, right? So
Yes.
how's that situation been panning out for you?
As far as I know, I haven't been paid out anything.
Unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. Obviously, I fuck PayPal. So I, obviously didn't select to liquidate my coins and get it through PayPal. But now I kind of wish I had, because then maybe I would have gotten double my money back. But yeah, it's it's a shit show. It's been a shit show for 10 years, and it continues to be a shit show. And yeah, through this whole process, there's been so many like false alarms. I think, by now, I think it's priced in. I think the market is totally aware of what, the potential is. And as I've said all along, like, I'll believe it once the money is in my hands, right? And until that moment, like, whatever. But yeah, I don't think the Gox coins starting to being paid out finally has had an effect on the market. I think all of this has just been ETF stuff. And as far as I know, they were the reason for like the dump a few years ago, right? When they were sold a bunch of coins so that everyone would be able to be paid in whatever denomination they had accepted. Or, I don't know. I get so confused. There's been so many emails and legalese that I can't read them. But yeah, I don't, whatever, it just doesn't matter anymore.
It's like you don't have FUD, you've got MUD, the Mt. Gox, uncertainty and doubt.
Yeah.
It was MUD. MUD or GUD, the Gox, uncertainty and doubt.
They pay you back in Tether, right as it
Right before it blows up too. It'll be like, we just sent you a Tether, and then the next day it'll be like, Tether goes to zero. Luna, the next Luna. Emergent, how are you seeing the market? Are you seeing something on the market? I guess that's it. You're thinking in BCH, you're just BCH denominated now, and BCH Bull, the only market that matters, right?
Yeah, well, I don't mean that in like an unrealistic kind of idealistic way. It's just literally I do all my business in BCH. Like the product is in BCH, the LP works in BCH, our company works in BCH, I get paid in BCH. But I mean, of course, the reality is that purchasing power is what matters when it comes to your money, right? Like, what can you actually buy? And so, of course, the volatility and the price matters. But yeah, no, I just I haven't ever found it very. Just personally, I don't just watch it very much, right? All I know is when I see people start talking about the price, that means it's going up, and as soon as people get quiet, that means it's gone back down. Like that's that's my version of the price chart. It's just
more up or down at the moment in terms of.
What do I think is going to happen? Oh, chat.
Yeah.
No, it's very quiet right now.
quiet. Okay.
Yeah.
My brother messaged me today to ask about the ETF, so that was my first sign that maybe the interest is starting up again.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough about.
But I mean, that's also what we try to do. We try to get the BCH off exchanges, and the more that is in use and tied up and being used in commerce or finance or savings or whatever on chain, the less there is on exchanges, which creates higher potential for price pressure on exchanges and places where it's valued in fiat.
If we can blow up an exchange with a BCH Bull bank run, that'll send BCH to the moon. I can't wait. Right? It'll be amazing.
Amazing.
Okay, so unsponsored, by the way, but actually sponsored. Okay, so we got this
sort of
2024 starting off with the BCH Guru Beta has launched, and it's public. So anybody can go and check it out. beta.bch.guru, and you can get it happening for yourself right there. I tried it earlier. I started a price prediction game, although I think the price has gone up since then, so I think I'm going to be on the losing side, but that's my first 100 Furu tokens down the drain, but looks great and it works great. I was not able to set my NFT profile picture, so there are obviously some small kinks that they're kind of working out, but for the most part, it was really seamless and worked amazingly well. Obviously, don't jam in too many of your funds while it's still just a beta. Don't degen in your whole Furu
I think they're
stack.
just doing Furu right now, right? I tried
Yeah,
it
you
yesterday
can't
and it
do
was only
BCH.
Furu. Yeah.
And that's probably smart. They haven't even switched on because nobody's
Yeah,
going to be
that's
mad
smart.
if they burn a few Furu. But they had 48 live games and 66,000 Furu staked just before the show. Let me have a quick look.
66,000 already.
Well, I mean, it's this Furu, so it's worth like almost nothing. But well, now it's 51 live games and 70,000 Furu TVL. So
Well, those tokens are going to end up being worth the fee, right? There's some kind of fee involved somewhere, but whatever that is worth is what I assume their value is going to turn out to be.
well, yeah, because you got to use the Furu to pay the fees, I guess, to participate. But I think they're also gonna. Oh, look, here's you. You're in a game, Emergent Reasons. You got your Guru NFT.
Oh yeah,
in there at Emergent Reason.
Of course I do.
Scrolling down the list, and bam, you're already in there. You're currently
They're
winning.
like, you wanna-
Congratulations.
Are you serious? Okay.
Yeah, $234.41 was your prediction, and at bussin_for_real_no cap is losing with a 241 price prediction. You're winning another one here as well too, with a 42. No, you're losing this one with a 42,690 price prediction.
It's a very nice price
BTC.
prediction.
Yeah, against the BCH Guru admin. So clearly that's manipulated.
That's an inside, total inside.
Yeah, inside job. They just changed their fucking price prediction on the fly. So that's a bit scammy. But anyway, the real Web3 vibes going on with the BCH Guru. We've got some screenshots that Jet can show on the screen on the next couple slides. It looks amazing. And I particularly was most impressed by the Cash Connect window when you connect your wallet and you're making these transactions. Yeah, I'll give you a chance in just a second, which pops up. You know, you and I were obviously talking about the native wallets, I think, at the last episode you were on. And to me, I was like, wow, we're almost kind of there. There's a few tweaks and improvements, no doubt, to come, but you get a screen which shows that you're signing a transaction from BCH Guru. What's the source? There's loads of information in terms of the cryptography, your inputs and outputs. It explains where the money's going, who's being paid what. It's got info about the cash tokens, all of this stuff. I was like, this is already way better than MetaMask, and this is the sort of early version, right? With this, it hasn't been refined and iterated on. So once this has graphics and help me links and so forth, everything, it's going to be absolutely insane. So I've been enjoying this a lot, and I want to give a big shout out to the Guru's team. John, what's your thoughts?
Oh man, the Guru game is fun. I was just jumping on there and just to try it out as in the beta, and it's fun. But the Cash Connect stuff is next level, and it's totally invisible. People, and that's one of the nice things about really good stuff is it's mostly invisible. You won't realize how much shit is going on behind the scenes that makes that thing amazing. And the one thing that I want to point out that I appreciate so much on the work that Matthew and Jim did on that with Cashinize and Cash Connect is when you do those transactions, your wallet is making the decisions, not the app. The app says, hey, I want to make a transaction and this is what we need to do. And then your wallet says, okay, I can do that. And it participates in that transaction, right? And then it makes that together. Whereas what almost all apps do today is not that at all, right? The app gets like all your private information, knows everything about your wallet, has all this information, makes all the decisions, chooses coins, does all this stuff. And then it's like, hey, do you want to do this? And you're like, oh, I guess, but with this Cash Connect, Cashinize is making those decisions, not the app. That's a huge, huge difference. I love it.
CheapLightning.
No, it's not making all the decisions, but there's still a good ways to go on that intelligence, but it's a huge step. Yeah, sorry.
CheapLightning, you promised you would have a game before you came on stream. What do you think?
I lied. Yeah, I opened up the website and I was eager to try it out. But all of my gurus and my furus are in my Petaka wallet, and so I'd have to set up a Cash and Eyes wallet and then move stuff over. And I had to make the news video today, so I was just like, I don't have time for this. So I'm sorry, I lied. I thought it would be easier than it was, but if I already had my Furus in my Cash and Eyes wallet, then I would have jumped on, but I didn't. But it looks great. I checked it out, clicked around. It seemed really cool, and I'm eager to try it out. But today was not the day, I'm afraid.
Yeah, pro tip to everyone: maybe just use a fresh wallet and I just put a little bit of Furu in there.
Yeah.
And as well, it is a beta product, so probably just don't degen in there with your mad stack of NFTs or something while it's still being tested out. Just take it a little bit lightly. But and it's funny because as fraction of this, but like I played it, I signed, I made a couple of these little bets, and I thought, this is kind of cool. And like you were saying about the magic is kind of going on behind the scenes, is you sort of forget that you're using Bitcoin Cash a little bit. Like, I know it's the BCH Guru and all of that. Right?
That's how it should be. That's how money should be.
Yeah, but you're not sort of thinking, oh, this is Bitcoin Cash. Like when you're in Electron Cash or something, it's very like you're in the cryptography and paste an address here and do this and that. But now that this BCH Guru has got such a like GUI type of wrapper around it, and also with the Cash Connect stuff supporting that on the wallet side, it's really like you kind of forget that these things are pinging around on a public blockchain because it's so easy. Like it's really getting to the stage that I could see this starting to get mainstream traction, that somebody you're not going to have to explain to them the history of Bitcoin Cash and everything. You just have to be like, look, isn't this cool and fun? Let me send you $1 to get started. And then they'll be like, yeah, this is fun. How do I do more of this, right?
I can say two more things about it. So why it has that nice GUI wrapper. So I didn't make it, right? So, but I see what's going on because I face these problems myself. But why it has such a nice wrapper, why it can have that, is exactly because it's the getting close to the native wallet. And that app doesn't have to be a fucking wallet itself. The app is just the app, and it can do the app things, and it can just make it nice and make the nice user experience. And then, it talks to the wallet, and the wallet does the wallet things. And that's fantastic, right? That's getting to the place where an app developer can make an app, and the wallet is like infrastructure, stuff in the background that handles your money and that you can trust. And that's fantastic. I love seeing that. But yeah, like you said, please be careful with it because all this stuff is fresh. The other thing is that the other thing that's not visible is the P2P layer that's going on, because like for people who haven't built apps, you may not know, like if you have one web browser on a tab and another one on a tab, those don't talk to each other. That's like a very verboten kind of thing. They don't communicate with each other because that would be extremely dangerous from a browser. But you'll notice like when you use the app and it's like, oh, connect your Cash and Eyes wallet, and it goes through a P2P layer on the back end, and they're talking to each other quietly on the back end on a P2P layer so that they can do the whole wallet, the Cash Connect thing. I love it. I love seeing it. It's so cool.
Yeah, I did. Now you mention it, I did, because I didn't notice that when I clicked connect, and then it popped up a little thing saying, sort of approve this in your Cash and Eyes wallet. And then I went over onto my Cash and Eyes wallet and it had the whole screen there like, are you okay with this? And I thought, this is a pretty unusual like flow. Like, what is happening here?
And this is better than like the plugin way, right? Because the plugin is like, oh, this plugin has access to everything you ever do on the web, and it sees all your pages, and it can replace text and whatever. And you're like, oh, I don't really like that, but okay. This is more separated, right? Your wallet's over here and the app's over there.
Yeah, and now that we've got this as well, it's kind of got over the line. Shout out to the gurus for basically delivering on time too. They promised that it would be Q4. They had their roadmap. We're going to deliver this, that, and the other. And it's pretty well on schedule. Like all things considered, and knowing how software development is, they're doing
Especially when it's all bespoke and new stuff.
This is all new stuff. Yeah, they're delivering like a mofo on the timeline that they promised. It's Q1, start of Q1, and here we are with an app. It's funny if you go back, like you said, about it being 1,000 years ago. So we did the episode talking about the BCH Guru announcement video was on May 14th, if you can believe that. So 7 months ago, we were like, oh, who are these new kids on the block with the announcement video? It was really cool. And
the funny music videos and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was only 7 months ago. And at that time, I guess there was no Cash Connect. There was nothing. Like there was probably, I don't know if Cash and Eyes even existed at that time, or maybe it was like a black and white wallet on a page at that point. And
monochrome.
Yeah. Well, because I still think of that first version that Matthew showed me, or that I looked at some point, and it was like HTML text,
Right.
So he's done a great job of improving the design around that as well too. So things have just leaped forward in that amount of time. And as soon as I saw that pop up of the Cash Connect thing, and I was like, this is better than MetaMask, and it just feels to me like in the space of, obviously with Cash Token as well, that's 7 months ago. That was Cash Tokens going live. And now we have live NFT projects that are being used in on-chain contracts and everything. I thought like nobody in crypto is really prepared for how hard the BCH ecosystem is going to start to hit them, because like from Smart BCH melting down in middle of 2022, right? That was the CoinFlex stuff. Yeah, so middle of 2022, in that 18 months, there's been like a quantum leap forward, especially in the last half of that, last 9 months. And the 9 months or the 18 months going forward, it's going to ramp up so quickly, especially if we get a bit of a price pump and a few more people taking a look into our coin. Crypto is just not
you just can't reproduce it. It's not reproducible, right? Like you need as much strife and time and social development as BCH ecosystem has had to reproduce it. You just can't fake that.
Yeah, I saw this thing, Sean Adams, he was just posting on Twitter before, and he said he was like really excited because he had this screenshot of his app or whatever, and it had like Base and Arbitrum and Optimism, and these guys are now all shilling these layer 2s, and he's like, wow, I'm really getting it. Every bank is going to be a layer 2. And I was like, bro, you are lost. Like this is some of the biggest voices in crypto out there. And then he had another comment saying, you don't get it. Every other chain's fees are going to zero except Ethereum. Like he has the kind of global reserve currency idea, but for Ethereum. And I'm like, you're delusional, mate. Like not only do you not realize that even if that worked out, there would still be competitors, you kind of lost the plot on that. But even then, you don't realize the difference between like the BCH ecosystem, what's cooking there, and what's cooking in ETH. And he just has such a huge voice. And so I replied and said, like, do you want to bet? Like, what timeline do you think every other chain is going to have all their fees go to zero? Like, he's just saying this stuff offhand. If he really had to think about it and set a timeline and put some money on the line, I'm sure that would fall apart.
There's like some kind of jump the shark moment. I don't know what it is, but that's something we all need to avoid too, right? That jump the shark moment. You really gotta keep your head on straight and look at things, because to get where we're going, it's a long road still to get there.
Yeah, you gotta stay.
And it's so easy to fall off, like with some nonsense.
Well, it seems to be the most of the price bumps. Like once they get some price bumps, everybody gets a bit of clout, life gets a lot easier, and then suddenly everyone forgets the mission, right? So I think that's something we really need to try and bed into our community. And I hope that there will be some of the fact that because we've had to fight so long and so hard through so many problems, there'll be a bit more residual memory about that. But it's definitely something that I am a little bit, worried about potentially being on our radar,
But we know social layer is there, and it's super important, right? It's that awareness is huge, because back 10 years ago or more, people didn't really grok how important and how dangerous it is, how valuable and how dangerous it is. Yeah.
And they still don't.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of that then, and speaking of quantum leaps forward and the BCH ecosystem starting to punch above its weight and so forth, we've got a segment here, Jameson Lopp versus the BCH podcast. This is one in a bit of a series. We've had Eric Wall versus the BCH podcast. I think we've had Adam Back versus the BCH podcast, as each of these guys come in with like, 2 orders of magnitude more followers than my Twitter account and gets absolutely lit up and then decides they're not going to come back for seconds. Jameson Lopp, this time it was his turn to not sort of realize the firing line that he had walked into. So it started at the end of last year on December the 22nd. Jameson Lopp made a post. He was obviously feeling himself, quote, "Despite a summer pump that more than doubled its value against BTC, the BCH fork closes out the year down another 9%. It's now worth a mere 0.5% of the real Bitcoin. Better luck next year at Roger Via." And then he's got the price chart there with BCH pumping in the middle of the year and then kind of falling back down and ending, slightly lower than where it started the year. And I quote tweeted that and said, "The desperation is palpable," because I felt like, what's he doing? Why is he even needing to make a big,
if it doesn't matter, like, why do you even care?
Yeah, if it's 0.5%, why is this? What's on your mind? Like, what's going on? So that was on December the 22nd. I felt like we're rent-free in his head. We're already winning if this is the case. Never mind about the price.
He's doing a jingles, right? So jingles is what I've dubbed when people use Roger as the boogeyman. So of course, BCH blah 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 Roger, right? In their brain, BCH equals Roger. And shout out to Jingles on Twitter, who does it all the time, which is what caused me to create the Jingles alert. So James Lopp, BCH is down, ha ha ha, Roger, like as if Roger and Jihan are the only people who exist in BCH, right? I hear every thread where BCH comes up, price chart, Roger, sometimes Jihan, but that's the only thing they know, is the only thing they care. They're so stuck back in the past. It's really, really.
And you're like, I gotcha.
Right?
Right, yeah.
But it was just as well. He's like trying to get his, like, the whole thing is so self-defeating, like trying to get a dunk in by being like, "You're so wrecked that I'm here to dunk on you." You're like, even if that was true, you're not exactly the bigger man for like coming into this situation to be like, "You're on the floor, so let me just punch you a couple more times." Yeah, how strong? Like, I was like, "What is?
I am the alpha."
Yeah, like, what is this absolute,
I do wonder what
shambles of a mental state that he's in? Like, if his price pumps are so great, why are we rent-free in his head? Anyway, that was all on the 22nd of December, right? So there's a little series of events here, so you got to keep that in mind. So then what happened was BCH produced a bit of a Jameson defying, or Jameson, I don't know what his name is, but anyway, he's welcome to come on the show and teach me his real name. But anyway, Jameson, he triggered BCH enough that it put in a huge last week of the year with a big pump, and it actually finished 5% up against BTC for the year, right? So it had been 9% down and it finished 5% up. So it did 15% against the market. So on New Year's, we actually finished up. So then I was able to add him to my long-running cognitive dissonance thread of everybody who's struggling to accept the reality that BCH is destroying them in one way or another. And I quote tweeted his tweet celebrating against Roger, and I said, "2024 starting off strong. At Lopp crows an early victory over Bitcoin Cash down 9%, yet it puts up a strong final week to finish the year up about 5% against BTC. absolutely rent free. Better luck next year at Lopp. It's always
It's like that meme, the two women in a race, and like the one is like, okay, I won, and the one from behind is like,
just charges through. Yeah. Exactly. But it's like it was just the height of overconfidence that he was saying, oh, we won this year, a week in crypto of all places, which is famously so volatile. But I guess in his mind, there was just 0% chance that BCH
couldn't
comes
wait
out.
till January 1st, right?
Yeah, no, just couldn't contain himself. And so anyway, so we got the dunk in there because we got the reversal and this screenshot of the price, so forth. But that wasn't even the half of it. So that was on the 1st of January, right? Once the year had ended. Now on the 3rd of January, who do we see yet again? Jameson Lopp comes in with a screenshot of Kim.com, who posted in 2021, BCH reached the halfway point today sooner than expected. On the current trajectory, we may reach a higher target for 2021. To those who paid attention, I say, why done? Well, why bitcoincash.com? Bitcoin Cash may pass Bitcoin market cap by 2024. I'm working on it. Stay tuned, right? So he posted this one of Kim, speculating on a flippening in 2021. And then he posted, BCH has dropped by 80% since this post. So January 3rd, less than 48 hours. It was actually less than 36 hours after getting it completely wrong. He goes in again on BCH, still rent-free in his head. And I replied to that and said, bro, not even 48 hours since your last Bitcoin Cash L. You really coming back for more? ? With the quote tweet of his, previous fail. Now that obviously got it under his skin because he wrote back to me and he wrote, your short-term thinking is the perpetual L. And I said, LMFAO, you, all caps, picked the 1 year time frame you lost on, skull, because this is the classic BTC thing where they're always like, zoom out, bro. But it was him that picked, his 1 year to celebrate a victory over Roger Ver. So anyway, he's already just in such a mess. But go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that, we were saying, and we laugh about it, but, it's funny, like, if you think of it as the big guy who's winning, kicking the little guy on the ground, but I think it's hilarious that we think that's funny, right? Because he thinks he's winning, right? He thinks he's winning and he doesn't have any clue. And when he says like the short-term thinking, and you're just like, you have no idea. Like he really has no idea what he's talking about, or he's just gone into some weird cognitive dissonance space. And I think it's really cool that we can laugh at that, him, thinking he's beating us up. And then I actually feel guilty talking shit about BTC because it's just so easy and it's just such a clown show. And I actually feel guilty about it sometimes because, one, it's not productive. So, okay, that's one thing. But then also I feel like I'm just kicking somebody when they're down when I do it because they don't even know that they're down. That's even worse.
Yeah, like it's true that in general, it's not a good thing to be punching down. But in this kind of scenario, it's like, that's why it's so ironic. I've got 7,500 Twitter followers. He's got like 450,000, right? So this is not like a fair fight in that sense. The amount of reach and the amount of just public opinion that will by default be on his side, even setting aside his own followers, just the general view of BCH is so poor, right? But anyway, so he'd already lost on his first prediction, which was a bit premature. Then he came in with a second round of it and says, this classic zoom out type of thinking. And I'm like, but you're the one who picked the 1 year. It wasn't me. Like, so you take another L. He comes back for a third helping and he said, I didn't pick, in quotes, the 1 year time frame. I've been writing annual reports for 5 years and covering the languishing of fork coins is part of the report. Feel free to make a prediction we can revisit and laugh at in a few years. So he's given me two openings and I'm going to take both of them. I said, so will the 2023 annual report include the fact BCH outperformed BTC, defying all the haters? Or is it only mentioned in years convenient to your story? Question mark. And then my second line was, I predict BCH will be the global reserve currency, of course, flipping BTC along the way by 2045, and linked him to my FAQ article, which explains exactly that. So it was just such the biggest copium to be like, he picked a 1 year time frame, he lost on it, said I was the one with short-term thinking, and then tried to cover with this cope of like, no, but I do it every year. This just happened to be this year. But he didn't write back to this one at that stage. He was like, down to the count. So, like, I don't know. That was just to the heart of the cognitive dissonance. I wonder, is he going to put BCH in his report or not? Because there's no way, some way in his mind, he's going to have to realize, like, either he doesn't write about us, in which case I've called him out for it already, or he does, and he has to admit that BCH outperformed BTC, which he said it wouldn't. So he's just wrecked there. And then just the fact that he tried to bait me to make a prediction where he thought I'd say like, oh, BTC will, BCH will pump against BTC next year or something like that. But I was way ahead of the game, like, and got him with the 2045 global reserve currency, which with a backup link to my site, which explains all that, which is what I'm all about, all my profile, everything. It's clearly not something I've, not serious about. And because there's no way for him to say, oh, this is short-term thinking, bro. If he says, well, 2045 is too far in the future, I've got him again with sounds like short-term thinking. So just all exits have been closed off. And I'm sure he didn't really enjoy that thread. But yeah.
I'm really interested how all those the guys like Lopp who they don't fashion themselves as price talk guys, right? Like he tries to be a technical, like deep, non-price oriented, whatever, for the mission, for the vision, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, I think it's nonsense what he's got, but he tries to do that, and I think he thinks he's doing that. But I'm really interested to see how all of those that social capital, right? They've invested so much social capital in this absolute image of, BTC is the only thing ever. Like, what are they gonna do? How is that gonna pan out? Like, how do they cut their losses? Do they just disappear? Do they rage quit? Or how's that gonna pan out? Him, all of them, right? John Carvalho.
Well, we're starting to see it a bit. John Carvalho, he started it up this week where he actually finally mentioned Bcashes in one of his posts. Like, he's got a little bit a step forward in the cognitive dissonance that we've gone from the, coin that shall not be named to like Bcashes got mentioned as like, we dunk on Bcashes, but some other kind of contradictory bullshit, that we've been telling them about forever, right? So they are. Chat's just like dying laughing over here. It's making me laugh too. But that's the thing. Like, they're just going to work through it step by step in this grinding public thing. And that's why I think this show is so funny, because, I mean, I'm not going to document every step of the way. We've got better things to do with our time, right? But I just find this kind of interaction so amazing, because it's the same thing that happened with Eric Wall, same thing that happened with Anabak. They come in, they're like, who's this stupid Bcasher with 8,000 followers? Let me just write up a quick, knock out this kid. And then they get slammed, and like they just don't see it coming. They come back once or twice more. It doesn't work. And then what? Like, I'm not going to hear from him again. I doubt he's going to be jumping on any of my threads or comments in a hurry, because like there's just no way that you don't. Like, he would have to dig into it. He would have to be like, wait, I'm not going to step on this bear trap twice. And he would have to read up on the podcast, like watch a couple episodes, like think about it a bit. And once he does, he's going to be like, holy shit. Like, this is a bit out of my league,
No,
like,
I'm sure he thinks he won. No, I'm sure he thinks he won, right?
I don't think he thinks he won. No way.
You don't think so?
Not a chance. He didn't reply to either of these last 2 points. If he thought he had any road there, he would have written something.
Maybe so. The one I'm most interested in of these is Death for Privacy and Samurai Wallet and TLTTTV, that guy, those three accounts. I'm really interested to see how they play out, because they say all the words and you're like, yeah, those are all the right words, but that's not what you're doing. And the thing you're working on is a zombie, and they just can't get over it, and they get really mad and salty about it if you ever point out, the deficiencies of why the things they want to accomplish can't be accomplished. I'm really interested there. And I'm sorry, CheapLightning, I stepped on you. Sorry about that.
How dare you? You stepped on my tail. It's really, really disrespectful.
I mean, janitors,
I predict one of two things is going to happen. Either one, Mr. Lopp is going to just casually not mention BCH in his report, or two, there's always the goalpost, right? So no matter what you say, until BCH flips BTC, it always will go back to, but if you held your coins from 2017 till now, then you're losing. Assuming that everybody who's in BCH now is someone who only bought a coin like pre-fork, right?
And immediately sold their
BTC and all of those things, right? So
what kind of loser would do that?
Well,
so rip us on this show, but doesn't matter. We're all laughing though. That's the thing about it. It's like we're still winning. It doesn't even matter.
But that happened in a thread like just yesterday or the day before with Callisti, right? So it's like there's these solid technical arguments, and then price chart, and then of course Callisti just has to reply with like, why do you think I bought coins in 2017? I wasn't even in the community back then. Like, everyone has a different entry point, and so going all the way back to 2017, every time the BCH argument comes up is really just silly. It's just so silly. I just so frustrated, because it's like, there's a very select group of people who would have been financially better off if they had held until today, et cetera, et cetera. But that's, what percentage of the community? All these coins are moving around. You don't know who has what from when. So,
on both sides.
On both sides,
obviously.
right?
Not like the BTC people are like bought in at 60K, and then they're like posting the price chart to us like, got him. And you're like, what? Like, you fucking bought at 60K, my friend. You're in the red.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. They're like fucking air punching on the side, and they're just like, what are you doing? I'm over here.
Like, people draw a lot of parallels between, crypto and religions, right? So I'm kind of curious, John, you had mentioned, what are these people going to do? And I don't know if religion is really the same kind of tribalism we can make an analogy on. But what about like sports teams? What do people do when their sports team has betrayed them in some way, right? I don't as an atheist, someone that doesn't watch sports, I don't have the answer to either of these things.
Right. Wrong discussion team here.
Well, the loyalists hunker down. There's two things, right? Once your team is losing, like either the loyalists hunker down and they say, it's just
remember the good time.
Remember 1943 when Manchester City won or whatever the fuck, Like, if you haven't seen, one of the best is at some point, I don't know, I can't promise that I'll ever do this, right? But it's on one of my things is, if anybody knows Three Lions, Football's Coming Home. What's it called? Yeah, Three Lions. It's by Lightning Seeds, right? It's this famous song, and it was made by these British guys in the 90s, and it's like a football anthem because when the last time they won the World Cup, I think was in the 50s, or it must have been in the 60s.
Oh, wow.
They won in the 60s, and then 30 years later they made this song, and one of the lyrics is like 30 years of hurt, right? We've been completely wrecked for 30 years, and here we are another 30 years later, and people are still singing that song like, remember 1960, like we're going to get him again. So on one hand, that's kind of admirable, like that kind of passion over all those decades. But just because Peter McCormack, he's got his football team, right? And he loves all that. And he's British. He would 100% know and have sung that song thousands of times. So when BCH is on the comeback, I'm going to make it's football's coming home, right? It's like, it's coming back to England. Cannot wait to make the Bitcoin's coming home thing with all the video clip has all the old clips of like the 60s and the different teams through the different eras and all that. Everybody go look up this song. It's a banger song. Three Lions, football's coming home. I'm going to make a Bitcoin version of that. Well, I say I will, but anyway, if I get the time, and I'll do that, and I'll match it all up, and there'll be, you know, Roger Ver in there. It's just like we have in the intro, you know, some stuff like that.
He'll unironically love it.
No, he will hate it. This will want Peter McCormack for the rest of his existence, I promise. But anyway, that's all.
McCormack is, you know, in my opinion, he's a grifter, right? He just showed up and was like, "Hey, I'm making a crypto podcast," and didn't know what he was talking about and whatever. Yeah. And now he's like making statements that are wishy-washy, and I don't think he's part of the purity spiral at all. I think he would switch teams as long as the audience was willing to pay him to talk about whatever it was. Yeah. That's my opinion. There are, however, lots of people out there who are 100% committed to the religion of BTC and are absolutely invested in, as their identity, their own personal identity is BTC, right? And those people will probably, you know, go down with the ship, and that's fine. But again, the vast majority of people who are into crypto in any shape or form don't really give a shit and are mostly agnostic as long as it's something that works. So at the end of the day, some of these, you know, high priests, Max Kaiser and Michael Saylor and, you know, these kinds of guys, you know, they're well, then again, Max Kaiser, you know, had Max Coin or whatever, but
those are both grifters there. Those aren't the purists. They may be the high priests, but they're not the ones who believe it. The high priests usually know how the sausage is made. It's the followers who don't. Yeah.
But the point is, right, that, and again, we'll see it, but there's going to be a bit of, you know, rats off the Titanic, right? And we've already seen that, you know, there's kind of cracks. There's a bit of the Taproot Wizards and CTV little lifeboats going on, but it's like there's no rescue ship coming. Doesn't matter if you're on the lifeboat, guys. Like you're all going down if the flippening starts. Which again, it might not be this year or next year or the year after. Who knows, right? But there's going to be a critical tipping point, and once the rush is on, to be the first to dump your BTC and get some BCH or even anything get your money out of BTC. Like somebody is always holding the 21 million UTXOs. That's what makes this thing fascinating. Yeah. A bunch of people are going to zero. Don't know who, but somebody is, because there's no way to like not have someone holding the bag.
That's one of the things that bug me when people are like, "Oh, splits are harmless," and I'm like, "Oh, they're not fucking harmless." Like somebody's gonna get burned. There's just like
like mathematical,
unless the split happens to be like, oh, these two, the top things that grow into global adoption. Unless that's what happened, no, somebody's getting fucking burned when a split happens.
And people unwillingly as well, because they won't be able to make a transaction, right? That's part of it. It's not only that like you want to sell and the price is going down. You can literally not get your money to an exchange. So
the ones who have it on chain and have been DCAing their $10 at a time, and like they have these weird narratives about like, I didn't realize that you shouldn't split up your UTXOs. So now I'm only going to withdraw once a month instead of once a week to consolidate some more of my UTXOs. And then when the fees are low, I'll just aggregate them together.
Imagine worrying about this stuff.
But that's
just putting the makeup on.
When was the last time you looked at like setting a fee for a transaction? When was the last time, right?
Well, they have it in Electron Cash. They have the slider, and I'm like, guys, let's just get rid of this slider. Like,
I remember it.
What is this?
The 2016 using Exodus Eden.
There you go.
Awful.
There you go.
It was I think the last time I used BTC was setting the fee slider, and it was to get the hell out of there as quick as I possibly could.
Me too. And like Koinomi or something. It's like, come on. It's like, oh, I got to check this website and see what the fees are like today. And
so looking at it from another angle, though, right? Like and this is part of also why I say I feel bad. Part of it's just because morally I feel bad kicking somebody who thinks they're big shit, but they're actually on the ground and they don't realize it. So that's one part of it. But then the other is just we're actually aiming for success, right? And we have to assume that we're going to be successful. And otherwise, none of us should be doing any of this that we're working on. So we have to assume that we're going to be successful. And if that's the case, we are the rescue boat. BCH is the rescue boat, right? Like we are the thing that people need to come and use. And how do we, I mean, I think I know the answer, but I can't for sure know the answer. How do we break that stigma and get people to just come in and use it and forget about it? And not be deterred by the stigma that other people have as well, right? So we gotta get there somehow. And I think the answer is the same as everything else, which is really valuable products and services and getting people to use them and just that spiral of people using it. But we haven't accomplished it yet. So we have to be that rescue boat and we have to get everybody on, right? So,
part of it's also an awakening, right? And I personally think that if BTC doesn't hit a new all-time high in the next bull run, it'll be the great awakening for everyone.
Right.
And they will be looking for life boats, right? And so maybe, a certain percentage of people will jump onto BCH and people will go to ETH and, whatever else. And just being there and being available for people who don't have the stigma of BCH because, their number go up, chart blasting, Roger boogeyman jingling people, they'll happily jump to whatever lifeboat is available, right?
Right.
And then people who are part of the purity spiral will, well, next time we miss the all-time high this time. Next time we're gonna blast them. It'll be $10 million per coin. Just stay
cycle. Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't feel too guilty about it. I mean, we're BCH is permissionless, right? We don't need to convince people that BTC is dying. When it becomes incredibly dangerous for them, we just have to be available and functional and out there. So
yeah, nobody.
I know, Jeremy,
about the color of the life raft. Yeah, exactly. Like,
right. That's a good point.
Oh shit, purple. I don't like purple.
I don't know. I'm looking. Has anybody seen an orange one? I just liquid. There we go. Liquid. Jeremy, I know you and I have some kind of similar view on what maxi means, right? Because I think you and I see it as more of the OG original maxi, where it wasn't a toxic thing. It was just the idea that, hey, look, there is going to be some kind of power law, Pareto principle, whatever it is you want to call it, where some small number of networks are really massively used by the whole world, and then a trail off of others, whether that's fiat or other crypto or private networks or whatever it is. So we assume, and we're working towards BCH being there, and that's kind of the maxi idea. Whereas that got totally corrupted, especially in the period like 2014 to 17, where it just turned into the religious, the negative type of religious, right? Like just belief with absolutely no reason and counter evidence and everything, right? Like just totally toxic and nasty to people. But there must be some risk of that happening in BCH also, right? Like how do you keep it and it's real, right? Because that risk becomes people believing things that don't make sense, right? Like believing ideas like, the Satoshi religion or whatever, where it's like, oh, the white paper is a religion, or whatever Satoshi said is a religion, like whatever he said can't be contravened, and that kind of stuff. Like it can really create a social rift, which is the origin of splits, right? Like how do you do that? I guess the question is, how do you make humans rational? And I think that's going to fail. So now I'm worried.
No, I'm not too worried about that. I mean,
humans.
Yeah, I have to say, on my part, I have to say, like, I'm not necessarily doing the best job of exemplifying like what you're talking about, because even just this week, right, I just popped off with one like, how do you know what's a garbage coin? Like they have one stat that they still relentlessly. I was getting in some like dunks on the LTC underground and stuff like that, and there's kind of a bit of a dual strategy there, because, and it might maybe it's strange, or I don't know. I guess it's just also sort of part of Twitter, but in person, I'll be very congenial and humorous and stuff. with people. And I've also been finding this recently just in my like personal life. Like if I'm talking face to face with somebody, I can sell them a tough message and then kind of be like, okay, you know, it's all in good faith. But if it's over text, even just like text message, people are like, God damn, this is a bit blunt. This is a bit much. And the reason that I have been doing a little bit of that now, that there will be less and less need for it, to be honest, going forward. But I've had to do a bit of that to sort of clamber up to where we are now in the narrative, because if BCH is just too nice when you're one of the small guys, you just get pushed around. So I have been a bit aggressive at times, and like that was even maybe a bit much. But the reason I'm doing that is to signal to the rest of the market, and you saw it happen. All these nano people are in my replies, Vlad Kostier, the LTC guys, like they're all in there. Is the market's got to look at that, and that got quite a lot of engagement. It's a shame that that's the only way, you know, one of the ways to get a lot of engagement. But the market's got to realize like BCH is here to play. Like we're not messing around. So with those BTC guys where they're so much bigger, it's like I don't really have to hold back. I can just like fire off on them, and like anybody reading that thread can kind of see like this is not like it's not like David versus Goliath type of situation. It's like the opposite of what you'd expect. You know, the BTC guys should just win this hands down, but they don't, even with such a huge advantage on their side. And kind of the same needs to be done to show to some of these other coins like LTC, or maybe some of these Monero, like maybe if set for privacy, I wonder if they'll have a stab at some point. But like you've got to show that BTC can hang. And then once we've got that, like once we've got that credibility, it's like these guys are not to be messed around with, then you can be a bit more gentler and opening and welcome to BCH and stuff. Like with the CTV guys, right? That's how we should more be, because they're over that bridge. They understand. It took them a while, and I had to be a bit aggro with some of them too to get them the message, but they did eventually realize BCH is serious. These guys aren't scammers. They know what they're talking about. Like once they had those ideas, then it was time to be a bit more like, okay, let's have a bit of fun banter. Let's, you know, check out what we're working on, etc. But you can't start at the end. Like you have to, I don't know. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something worth being careful about though, because, you know, if you think back, like we're talking the birthday 15 years ago, or even 10 years ago, Bitcoin was the massive underdog at the time, right? Like at that time, there was no real dog. I mean, everything was starting to take off 10 years ago, but you know, before that, like 2010, 11, 12, like it was still a massive underdog. People totally didn't believe it, thought it was complete nonsense. There's a huge, it was just nothing, right? And so it took some of that fighting to just step out of that and be like, no, we're serious. We're here. Bitcoin is here. This is really serious, and it's going to challenge the fiat system. And then somehow that morphed into the toxic version. And I think it's because of the whole expulso quodlibet thing that I always say, right? Like as soon as the narrative went off the rails, then the only thing you can possibly do is be toxic and stupid, because you've got nothing to stand on.
Well, hold on though. So I think if BCH ever flips BTC in price, I'm going to spend at least a month being the most toxic maximalist. And I'm going to say, like, I'm going to name names and be like, these are the accounts that have been giving me shit since 2017. We're coming for you. And as an addition, the US dollar, the fiat dollar, we're coming for you next.
Yes.
And start tagging Elizabeth Warren.
You see the difference, right? Like you see the difference there, right? Because once you've gone off the rails and you're still being like that, it's just dumb and stupid. And like all it is toxic. But if you do that to the guy who was trying to beat you down and you just knock them the fuck out, that's different, right? And you're still on the rails and you're still going towards the goal. That's a different thing. That's where you're just like, you know, now what, bitch? How do you like them apples?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a different thing. So I don't know. We just have to be careful. I think the real answer, I just answered myself, right? You got to stay on the rails and keep going towards the goal. That's it.
Well, what are you? imagining? Like, just like people start worshiping Satoshi, or what's like a potential thing?
All
We
those
get a
things,
big price pump. We get a bit higher on
it's also
supply.
called people start to like you said before, Jeremy. People the price pumps, and then they start to believe. It's like a famous thing for wealthy people. Not all wealthy people, but many. They got wealthy somehow, and they think they're a genius. And you're like, wait. That's not exactly
You
what
got
happened.
lucky.
Yeah, or
Not
something
even
like
lucky.
that.
Like in that one thing, you got one thing right that doesn't apply to everything else.
Yeah, and it doesn't
kind of-
apply in all cases. It's not a general truth, that kind of thing. Yeah, people pick up on one thing that they believe, like, I told you. Always following every word of the white paper like a Bible is the answer, right? They pick up and they latch onto something, and that can be dangerous. So yeah, that's what I imagine CheapLightning is like that. And then also just becoming an asshole. Whatever.
But I think a lot of it just comes down to practicing what you preach, right? That's really where the BTC guys have gone wrong. Like, I never have any problems with shilling BCH all over the place, like to my friends or to anything like that, because they know, they're like, yeah, every time we're going to make a payment, Jeremy said, do you want to do BCH or not? And then sometimes they say no, and I say that's fine. Sometimes they say yes, and we do it. Bam, that's it. And you're paid. Like, they're like, there's no that's distance. Like, that's what is this Dylan Leclerc thing I thought was so crazy. He must be living this life where he's going around to everyone, I'm this big shot in Bitcoin. Everybody knows he does Bitcoin his whole life, and he doesn't make one transaction in several months. Like, every single person who knows him must be like, this guy's such a fraud. Like, they know it. Like, his own parents and his own mates must be like,
yeah, but hodling is using. Hodling is using, right? But
on the river Styx.
Well, that is the difference, right? So with BTC, you get some, you hold it, you never spend it. Use your credit card. You can't afford to spend it anyway because of the fees. So just keep holding it. And blah blah blah. That's just part of what it is now. So it's
the
not
goals have moved.
Yeah. And that's one thing that really bothers me is that in these conversations, like, people have different ideas about what the purpose of Bitcoin is, but I think it's pretty obvious what the original intent was. And that's not to say that the original intent should be the intent for all time, but denying the fact that a peer-to-peer electronic cash system is the same thing as a peer-to-peer immutable network of digital gold, those are different words, right? Can we agree that those are different words that have different meanings? One project intends to be peer-to-peer electronic cash. The other project intends to be, I don't know anymore. I don't know what they want to be. They intend to be number go up. They intend to be we get rich. So it's not even like the same project, right? And using, of course, why would you use BTC, right? You just hold it, stack your stats. Oh, but wait. Stack stats only once a month, because if you stack them every week, then the UTXOs will pile up. You can't spend it.
And also make sure you stack more than 100 times the fees, or else you're fine.
Yeah. And that's like, so to me, because I just see it all as like, if the BCH fees went up to 5 cents, there would be a riot, right? There would be everyone would be like, what's going on? Like, this is bullshit. Like, let's get this back on track. Like, we're doing something wrong. That would start at that level. And the reason I know that is because we already had that back in the day, right? Before the block size war, right? And that was the critical battle. I think it's so funny that there are people in the BTC community now who are kind of like, guys, what are we doing about these fees? Like, we need to maybe do something about that. It's like a $5 fee, and they're like, guys,
has anyone thought about this yet?
Yeah, it's like they're like $10. That's a bit expensive. Like, this is a big issue. Is that who, guys? Like, where are you over?
Can the devs do something?
Yeah, can the devs do?
But even Peter McCormack,
the ship is sailed.
Like, oh, maybe the big blockers had the right idea, or has anybody thought about raising the block size? It's just like.
But he's now like, somebody put it well though on Twitter. They made this post where they were like, look, what you got to understand is that BTC has this huge brain drain, which it obviously does, right? Every cycle, things are getting stupider. And because there's now this clip of Peter McCormack, and he's interviewing some guys like, well, so we're all going to end up in these custodial solutions. So if we have 21 million on the base layer, is that a win for us, guys? They're kind of like, what does it look like if we win? And the guy he's interviewing, who's some guy I've never heard of, maybe he's a big deal, but I doubt it. It's him and this other clueless like moron, and they're saying, oh, the guy says, you know, I kind of think that Bitcoin was about sort of having a neutral system, and if the market decides that a fractional reserve system is better, then that's what it's decided. And at least we gave it an option or something like that. So I'm not too sold on the whole 21 million thing. And you're just kind of like,
wait, what are you guys doing?
What are you talking
What's the
about?
point of this?
What is this?
We are kind of be veering away from the not your keys, not your Bitcoin scenario for every person. And we are going to have these different centralized solutions, custody solutions, different scaling solutions. And it keeps making me think, I keep going back to this point, I was talking about it with Danny, I think, so is the real battle that we're trying to win overall, is it just 21 million? Is this the battle? If when we win 21 million, do we win everything else? Knowing within that, some people are going to get rugged at some point. Some people are going to, there's going to be technical errors where people are going to use their Bitcoin. There may be a Fedi mint which rugs, or a eCash system that rugs. There might be, there may be a custodial solution or a derivative solution whereby they're using paper Bitcoin. All these potential risks exist, but in the end, we still only have 21 million base chain Bitcoin. Is that our real battle here?
I think Alan might think about this perhaps a bit differently than I do. I almost agree. I think that at the end of the day, though, if I were to really define like what I think the real battle is, I think I just want to have a neutral financial system. And if that neutral system in a free market manner determines that it wants to create a system of like fractional reserve beyond 21 million, as long as it's market participants that are creating that kind of a system and there's economic benefit coming from it, I think that's good.
So it's just kind of like they've lost sight of it, and people just, the riot has to happen as soon as the problem starts. That's, I think, my answer to your question is things get to where they've got now in a series of 1,000 steps, right?
Yeah.
It's like, once the first step, not that we need to be dogmatic or, not closed-minded or anything like that, but you can see the seeds of this stuff starting way ahead of time, and you've got to nip it in the bud, because otherwise the people who believe the old good ideas, they slowly leave, and some newer one, that's how you get drift of a group of people. Like, people are leaving on one side and joining on the other, and then the crowd has suddenly moved from where it was. So like BCH,
that's one of the things I really like about the chip process, is just that it sets that bar very high in terms of, look, if you can't convince a lot of people that it's a good idea for themselves to follow what you're doing and to do whatever it is that you're doing, then you probably don't have such a great idea. Whereas in BTC, what we left behind and we got burned by as Bitcoiners, right, was there's high priests that decide things, and that's it. That's really it. That's that's a dangerous place to be in, and that leads to that maxi thing, right? Where, because you can't actually influence what's going on. And so you do the next best thing, which is, either cheerleading or complaining or kvetching or whatever, but you're not actually participating anymore, right? That's very dangerous. And that leads to all these weird branches of thought nonsense.
But the way BCH has kept on track with the main ideas has been conflict so far. There was 3 civil wars, there was the smart BCH blow up, etc. Right? So it's been, ironically, in a certain sense, though, all those problems that have sort of clarified the community down to like, what are we really doing here? Because if any chance to get lost along the way has just been cleared out one after another. But I'm not too worried about that in the future, because the same cycle can work in reverse. As the community is starting to succeed, and we're seeing that, people get the message of like, it's working, do more of that. So if we believe that the economic incentives and so forth of Bitcoin line up well, then all we'll need to do is do more of what's working and we'll stay on the right path. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess I wish everybody would internalize the whole expulso quodlibet thing, you know, like you have to constantly be not other people, but yourself. Like you have to be constantly checking yourself. Have I swallowed some Kool-Aid? Have I drank a little bit of Kool-Aid? Have I been huffing some copium? Have I been huffing some hopium? Like you really gotta pay attention to yourself and make sure that you're not just taking on nonsense because they go to weird places. And then you lose that direction, right? Once that happens.
Well, there has been a lot of that, and I think it's been a good thing. The reason BCH is starting to succeed is because we were finally able to cut out enough of that, like people of that copium, like people getting defensive and salty immediately about, well, your price is low, well, your hash rate is low. Those are just facts. And you have to be able to say, yeah, they are, but, and then have a more nuanced discussion. But
right. Instead of like, I don't care about the price.
Yeah.
The price doesn't matter.
The hash rate doesn't matter. Or, blah, blah, blah. Like something different. Like, no, you have to just accept that before you can move on.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
All right. I got meme of the week here. It's a picture of a young boy who's, I don't know how old's this kid, 5, 6, and he's playing simultaneous chess. If anybody has ever seen that before, you know, you get a huge, usually like a 3-sided set of tables, and the one person in the middle walks around and plays, like chess grandmaster plays 30 games against everyone else who's only playing one game. You know, that's their little battle. But the chess grandmaster is just beating them all. Also, you can look up Darren Brown plays chess if you want to see a pretty excellent example of that with a bit of a twist. But anyway, it's this one young boy playing chess, and it's got the BCH logo on it. And then on the other side, all the people that he's playing against is all adults, and it's all the financial institutions: JP Morgan, BlackRock, Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley, TD Ameritrade, Goldman Sachs. And I saw this and made me laugh because I was like, yeah, this is how it is. It's one v everyone. Really. Yeah. It's just us.
And it really used to be Bitcoin, right? Like that used to be Bitcoin. And then people are like, oh, you stole that from Bitcoin. And it's like, no, we're the ones who made those. we were the Bitcoiners then. You're not the Bitcoiners anymore. You've got some other thing, like CheapLightning said. You're not competing with anybody except, you know, whatever, penny stocks or something, or some kind of stock market thing as an asset.
But it's just so obvious, right? Because now they're on the other side of the table. What are they busy shilling? Yeah. Like, why doesn't BlackRock give us an ETF? Why doesn't Goldman Sachs do this? Why doesn't somebody file an ETF? Like, that's them. They're all on the other side of the table. And again, this is kind of partly as well. It's not, this meme is not really about the altcoins, but that's also kind of how I feel. That's how, if I'm prepared to just shit on the altcoiners a little bit, this is why, because in a certain sense, it is just BCH versus the world. And that's a battle we can win, but you can't win it if you're not clear that that's the situation. So sometimes it's worth reminding yourself of that, you know?
There was someone making a comment about Ellen in the Twitch chat, and I responded. Sorry, I laughed, but I added a serious response later. Yeah, that something. It seems like people still don't get in BCH sometimes, but less in BCH, but very much in BTC and other places. That there's a huge difference. There's an absolute world of difference between being able to do something and being required to do something, right? And so with Lightning as an example, right? The huge difference is with BTC, you're forced to find another solution for how to use it because it doesn't work. And so you must find another way to use it. And that's why people latch onto Lightning Network, because they're like, oh my God, I need to be able to use it as or whatever. Some people still believe that. So they try to find a way, and they have this Lightning thing that they try to use, but it doesn't work well. But BCH, on the other hand, is like, yeah, we could have Lightning Network if we wanted. If somebody wanted to make it, they could today. Nobody needs it. That's the whole point of the engineering thing, right? There's no need for it. And so whatever, you could have it, but you don't need it. And the same thing with the ETFs and the traditional finance versions of Bitcoin, right? When you're in BTC, that's all you've got is the price. And it's a collectible now. You can't actually use it. The only thing you can do is speculate with it on traditional finance, because that's where it actually works, which sure looks a lot like tinfoil hat territory. Like, it's very easy to make the case for that, of it being, castrated or defanged or whatever. But then on BCH, it's like, okay, well, that's not an evil thing. You can do that. You can have an ETF. You can have traditional finance involved. That's fine. You can't stop them. Sure, go ahead. But you can still use BCH and you can run an economy on it. You can run commerce on it. There's an absolute world of difference between being forced into traditional finance and it being just another thing that happens. And somehow, I don't know, that realization isn't there in the BTC ecosystem.
I don't know. It's just such binary thinking, because you can even go back to the clips and it's crazy because all these BTC people will be like, Roger Ver, he hated the Lightning Network. No, he didn't. The clips where he was talking about it, he says
sure,
guys, we can have Lightning Network. That's great, but let's have Lightning Network and bigger blocks. And yeah, he says it over and over and over and over again. And everyone's like, Roger hates Lightning. It's like, no, he was like, you can do Lightning. Just don't fuck up the layer one at the same time. Exactly. All right. Why don't we both get what we want? Anyway.
Exactly.
That is what it is. Shout out to Jack with about 1 million A's in the chat, who says, I got called an altcoiner, been buying Bitcoin since 2012 and mining back then too. I'm still a Bitcoin maxi, just BCH is the trading symbol now. Laughing emoji. I feel you. You're in the right crowd here. Welcome to the Bitcoin Cash podcast. All right. Community comment of the week comes from my boy FiendishCrypto, and he said, if 2024 can continue the momentum 2023 started, the ecosystem will be awash with builders, scammers, devs, grifters, the whole caboodle. It's going to be a wild party. And I thought that was a good one to throw in there for this week because it's a good way for the community to think about it in 2024. I think, we're going to get a big surge of momentum. We're going to have a lot of new people joining the community and it's going to be great, but it's worth reiterating to everyone, there's going to be some bad apples mixed in with the whole bunch, right? So just be on your toes about that, really.
Watch out. Yes, watch out for scams. I think Smart BCH was a really, really excellent lesson for people because, with the EVM, you can copy and paste, all of these different projects that have been developed and fine-tuned and whatever. And so anyone with a really low skill level could just copy and paste and create a token and create a project and a DEX and whatever and take your money and run away. With BCH, with cash tokens, it's still sort of bespoke and not nearly as easy to cut and paste. And so there's for projects like a DEX or something, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to scam people. But for tokens and NFTs, cashtokens.studio, you can make them right now. All you need to do is plunk in some numbers in a web page, and you've got your tokens and your NFTs. Throw up a really quick website and be like, hey guys, I've got my new fart token or whatever it is. And, people will ape in, and you have to have your guard up. And on the one hand, it's like, it'll be awesome to have a lot of excitement and new projects and money coming in. But on the other hand, there's going to be people who lose their shirt because they go all in on something ridiculous without doing any research whatsoever. And it's really painful to have to deal with the fallout of these people. Like, Bitcoin Cash is a scam because I bought fart token NFTs and the guy said he was going to make a game and then he never did. So just be vigilant, right? Don't ape in on to something. It's a fucking scam. IAFS.cash. Check it out.
Yeah. A lot to be said for that. So everybody should be aware as we get new members into the community, please try and pass along that cultural knowledge to them. Please try and tell them to just temper their expectations and take things slow, and also just consider that the people who were here 2 years ago are probably going to be the ones still here in 2 years, right? So just put a high premium on that and be very cautious with any newer projects or newer things that are promising a lot, because a lot of good projects will come out. But if you're a little, like, it's much better to be late to the good projects but also late to the bad projects than the other way around. If you're early to everything, you're going to get scammed a lot. But if you're late to a few things, well, you're not going to miss much. You're going to miss the scams, but the good ones will stick around and persist, and then you can jump in once you know that they're real and you've seen that. So, yeah, good thing. Okay, message to the community. CheapLightning, you're up first. What does the Bitcoin Cash community need to hear?
We're killing it, guys. Stay the course. We're doing good. And if you haven't checked it out, check out the thing I wrote recently about how can I help Bitcoin Cash. Really, there's, you think you don't have anything that you can do because you're a nobody. Well, we're all nobodies. You can contribute. At the most basic level, every single BCH post you see online, like it, right? That's the most basic thing you can do. And then going up from there, contribute, build, make a podcast, make a YouTube channel, make some memes, just contribute, help. We need your help. We want your help. We love your help. You are on the team. You don't need our permission. Just join in.
You're part of the distributed Fortune 500, so kill it.
Exactly. There's no interview process. You're in. Yep. Congratulations. There's no welcome. There's no welcome badge or like T-shirt or like orientation. Read the FAQs on bitcoincashpodcast.com and like get cracking. That's it.
What should I do? Yes.
Exactly. Whatever you want. Emergent, do you have a message to the community?
Yeah, I think I'm going to double down. Like, there's a lot of positivity, and then there's room for so many things to happen. Like, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but there really is room for an explosion with cash tokens, and that's not the traditional JPEG NFT stuff, which can be fun and whatever. But the whole smart contract and actual programmable money aspect is there's so much potential there, and so I'm really excited about that. But what I'm going to double down on is, if you out there are missing a motto, if you don't have a motto, just adopt this one for now. And that's the phrase ex falso quodlibet. Look it up if you don't know it. But basically it means from falsehood, explosion. Means if you swallow some bullshit, you're going to end up in a very bad, irrational place that's not good for anybody. So yeah, check yourself, and ex falso quodlibet if you need a motto.
Yeah, you got to just say, I'm just double checking on Google Translate, but whenever you say that, my high school Latin kicks in, and I always think, yeah, quodlibet actually doesn't mean explosion. It means whatever.
No, it doesn't mean explosion. Yeah, it means
that's the
anything.
like
Anything can follow
principles. Whatever. Yeah,
it's a logical fallacy that if you introduce a falsehood into a formal logical system, you can come up with any conclusion you want in the formal logical system. If you introduce a false assumption, you can use that assumption to manipulate everything else and end up with any conclusion you want, you can come up with. And that's the origin of it.
Yeah, it's like, you give me one free lie and I'll like sort the rest out from there.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Reminds me of the classic saying about science, right? Give us one free Big Bang explosion and we'll take it from there. It's the same thing. There you go. Religion versus science. That's a debate for another time. Okay. Yeah. So that will pretty much do it for the show then. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We've got our supporter appreciation. Thank you very much to our donators. Thank you to our patrons, Ricky HP and Digital Checo. Thank you to our sponsor, General Protocols, bchbull.com. Go check that out. As you can hear, the TVL is mooning, so maybe get in on that, because I hear that token's doing pretty well. So You might want to
BCH token. You have a token? Yes. Yes, yes.
You might want to pick some up in case it catches on.
Thank you to our Flip Starter contributors, Majamali, Marcelo, Molecular, Shadow of Harbinger, Turik, Emergent Reasons, Imaginary Username, CheapLightning, Pat, Mini Satoshi, and Sendax's man, Marius. You're all the best, and having you here live on the show is even better. The start guide, FAQ, links, and all that can be found at bitcoincashpodcast.com. Listen to episode 85. Try out Selene Wallet. Callisti mentioned we've got an upgrade just about rolling out. I was testing that with him earlier today. It's looking great, and it fixes the one biggest problem with the minor transaction fees. So that's going to be great. It's got loads of new features in there. That's going to be awesome. So that's at selene.cash. And shout outs for the show. Oh, also, Egg Rolly says in the chat, can't wait for Jessica to join the BCH community. That has caught on like wildfire. Like, people are loving that, aren't they? Any quick thoughts on Jessica?
Marketing.
Awesome.
It's great marketing. Yeah, go for it.
Right. Abla supporters, big Abla supporters, both of you. All right. Anyway, shout outs for the show. CheapLightning, who do you want to give a shout out for?
Oh, I wasn't thinking. Shout out to all my cats.
Okay. John?
Yeah, shout out to all the BCH Bull users. We really appreciate you guys using it, taking a risk on something that is new on UTXO. We've worked very hard on it, but there's always some risk. So we really appreciate you guys trying it out and making it work.
Jet, shout outs.
Sure. So shout out to all the buyers of my future token, the Grift token. It'll be live within the next week. No, I got enough.
Thanks. Also, thanks, Jeremy, for letting us benchwarmers come on the show. It's always fun.
No, it's been amazing. You guys are very reliable, even when our guests unexpectedly drop the ball. But I got to say, I don't think, even though this was going to be a laser hour, we're going to talk about nodes and decentralization and all of that. I've still got the slides and the research, so we'll hopefully do that in the future. I genuinely don't think he was, like trying to troll us or anything. Like, he gave me a heads up, like, well ahead of time. He'd been communicating with me well and stuff. So I hope his wife gets better soon. And would be.
I think there's going to be a lot of that coming up. It's really good with you and Callisti, like just dragging people into the conversation and having constructive conversations is great. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I think it sends sort of the right message. And then that's how I build up a bit of credibility, so then I can burn a little bit of it when I make a post calling people trash. And then people come in the comments and they're like, not a good look for BCH. And I'm just kind of like, well, fuck you, bro. Like, this is Bitcoin, so get out of here. I don't care. I don't care if you don't like it. My shout out goes to the BCH gurus for delivering so hard. Mate, and now great stuff on every front. Loving the new project. It's going to be amazing. I already said in the chat, but once they put in leaderboards as well too, that's going to kick off, because then it'll suddenly become a one-upsmanship of who's the gurus and who's the furus. It'll just be like screenshotted you on the fucking BCH guru leaderboard. So get out of my face, son. Like, can't wait for that to start. And my other shout out goes to Glorb, Glorb. If you don't know who that is, it's this YouTube channel, which I have just found, but it's already huge. It's got like 500,000 subscribers. Somebody has started making drill rap SpongeBob parodies using AI, and they started out kind of bad, but they got amazing. If you gotta look up the bottom two, they're really, really good. And then everybody was speculating, like, these are so good that this must be somebody who is actually a pro music producer. And apparently whoever it is that is doing it, like, confirmed, like, yeah, I am actually kind of known in the industry or whatever. But they've just got this pseudonymous account to make SpongeBob, like, hardcore raps. So check that out. Jay Hun P. Melcher says, shout out to Bitcoin Cash TV as well. Yep, shout out to BChad. I guess that must be some of the new listeners. They might have been in the stream beforehand. Shout out and welcome to the show. We did an episode with BChad a while ago, so you can look that up in the history if you're interested. All right, that'll do it, everybody. Thank you for listening. Until next time.
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
And that is another thing that no one can ever teach you. Because you're going to have to learn that on your own. You're going to have to figure out how to